Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into an analysis that is absolutely going to shatter a fundamental assumption I bet most of us hold dear. That age-old idea that seeing is believing. We walk around every single day completely confident that the reality we experience is the objective truth. But what if it isn't? What if the world you see is actually just a heavily edited projection? We're starting right out of the gate with this really profound Socratic question from the author. It's designed to completely challenge your baseline reality. Think about it. We name things, we categorize them, and we build these massive systems of knowledge based entirely on our daily experiences. But take a second, step back, and genuinely ask yourself, is the world I know really the world itself? Or is it just the world exactly as my biology allows me to perceive it? Because honestly, the problem starts the exact second we open our eyes. Section 1. Boundaries of Cognition. Senses as the first door. See, our five senses actually act as highly restrictive biological filters. We love to think of them as these clear, transparent windows to the outside world, right? But in reality, they take external stimuli and heavily transform them into the internal phenomena that we just confidently call reality. Take this, for example. We only see an absolutely microscopic sliver of the electromagnetic spectrum. We call it visible light. But literally vibrating all around us right now is this vast, chaotic reality of radio waves, microwaves, X-rays, gamma rays, and we are completely blind to all of it. So the huge takeaway here is that unseen absolutely does not mean non-existent. And because we literally can't see everything, the author outlines how existence actually moves through these continuous flowing stages. Reality isn't just a simple binary switch of it's there or it's not. It actually flows from the unmanifested, where changes and relationships are already happening completely out of our sight, to manifesting, where subtle little signs begin to emerge, and finally to manifested, where it actually becomes obvious enough for our incredibly limited senses to pick it up. Section 2. Structure and Vibration. The Limitations of Medical Observation.
Now, when we apply this seeing is believing bias directly to the human body, things get super interesting. Modern medicine relies heavily on these incredible observational tools that brilliantly, and I mean brilliantly, dismantle us into microscopic atomic pieces. We zoom in from the whole body down to the organs, then the tissues, the cells, the molecules, all the way down to the DNA. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. As we accumulate more and more data about the microscopic pieces, we really risk losing sight of the complete living person. A human being is not just a biological machine made of isolated parts piled together. There is clearly something else going on that makes all those individual parts alive.
To understand that, this traces a traditional Chinese cognitive model, which offers a totally different perspective. It actually starts at the top with unseen energy, or qi, basically this unformed potential. And when that potential moves, it creates vibration. That vibration creates a rhythm. The rhythm builds relationships. The relationships form structures. And only then, at the very end of the line, do you get the final observable phenomenon, or image. Now, the Western medical view often starts way at the bottom of this list, just looking at the phenomenon. But this model suggests that life is actually a dynamic cascade of vibrations and relationships long before it ever becomes a physical structure. Section 3. Parts do not equal whole. Where is life located? To truly get a handle on where life is actually located, just compare a living person to a newly deceased body. In the moments immediately following death, the physical elements, the carbon, the hydrogen, the DNA, they remain exactly 100% identical. Not a single atom is missing. Yet, the life is completely gone. Why is that? Well, it's because the vital relationships, those continuous exchanges, and the rhythms have completely stopped. Life isn't just the material itself. Life is what the material is actually doing. We so often think of DNA as the central commander, right? Sitting up in the brain, barking orders to the rest of the body. But actually, scratch that. It's a totally flawed model. Almost every single cell in your body has the exact same DNA. Your heart cells and your brain cells share the exact same instruction manual. So why are they so incredibly different? Because DNA is basically a distributed network that responds to relationships. It's the dynamic environmental signals that tell a heart cell to beat and a brain cell to think. It is all about context and connection.
Section 4. Entropy and Life's Order. Defying Universal Chaos.
Okay, so to see how life actually sustains itself on a macro level, we have to look at a fundamental rule of the universe: entropy. It's defined as the natural tendency of an isolated system to move toward disorder, or thermodynamic equilibrium. Put simply, Just like a hot cup of coffee naturally cools down to match the room temperature, or an untended garden just gets completely overrun with weeds, the universe is constantly, aggressively pushing toward disorder and randomness. Literally everything falls apart over time. But here's the amazing part. Life pushes back. The physicist Erwin Schrödinger beautifully explained that life defies entropy by actively pulling order from its environment. He called this negative entropy. Think of it kind of like an air conditioner in the dead of summer. It aggressively pumps the heat outside to maintain a cool, highly structured, and comfortable order inside the room. Life does the exact same thing. We eat, we breathe, we metabolize, all to constantly flush out disorder and maintain our internal rhythm. And remarkably, our brains do the exact same thing with information. Take a chair, for instance. Technically, it is a chaotic swirl of billions of shifting atoms and molecules. But your brain, it doesn't have the time or the energy to process that level of absolute chaos. So it lazily, but brilliantly honestly, compresses all that massive data into the neat, simple concept of a chair. This mental abstraction is a vital survival superpower. It lets us navigate the world quickly. But it is also a massive blind spot, because we start to mistake our compressed concept for the full complex reality of the actual object.
Section 5. The third logic. Yi Li and Chinese thinking.
So how do we overcome these sensory blind spots and conceptual compressions? We can use a dynamic logic tailored for a world that simply refuses to stand still. Rooted deeply in Chinese philosophical thinking, this framework basically breaks down into 3 steps. Step 1. Observe the change. You have to acknowledge that the system is never, ever static. Step 2. Find the constant rule within that change, because even in a shifting season, there's always a reliable pattern. And step 3, simplify it into a workable model. You extract the core variables so you can actually make practical decisions. It's really a way of grasping the flow of reality rather than just taking a static snapshot of it. And when you pair this dynamic Eastern thinking with Western scientific methods, you get an absolute powerhouse of an engine for understanding. True scientific understanding bridges East and West through this continuous cognitive loop. You observe the phenomenon, induct a pattern, hypothesize, deduce, verify, correct your assumption, and crucially, you re-observe the new state. You never, ever assume you have the final, permanent answer, because the system is quite literally always in motion. Section 6. Nothing new under the sun. Global resonances. This brings us to a shared global insight that views the human body as a microscopic mirror of the cosmos. The Western Hermetic principle states, as above, so below, while Chinese philosophical principles similarly assert that heaven and humanity resonate. It's wild to think about, but despite vast geographical distances and completely independent development, both of these ancient cultures recognized that the rules governing the massive, sprawling cosmos are the exact same rules governing the tiny cells right inside our bodies. As it's written in the book of Ecclesiastes, what has been will be again, there is nothing new under the sun. And this poignant phrase just perfectly reminds us that our modern cutting-edge discoveries about complex systems, quantum relationships, and the deep nature of existence, they're often just echoes. They're echoes of incredibly deep truths our ancestors already grasped, just using different language and different symbols. So, I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder your own existence. If our senses constantly filter the truth, if our medical tools only show us the static parts of a moving whole, and if our concepts are basically just compressed shortcuts, what are we still failing to see? I urge you to remain relentlessly curious about the vast, vibrating universe humming just outside the narrow window of your perception. Keep questioning, keep observing, and never assume you've seen the whole picture. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer.